A struggling single mom prayed for a miracle for her son, never expecting it to come from a millionaire CEO she once knew. The rain pounded against the hospital window like a relentless drum, mirroring the frantic beat of Emily's heart. Her hands trembled as she clutched her son Tommy's small, feverish palm. The doctor's words echoed in her mind. "We need to run more tests, but his condition is worsening. Without the next round of treatments." Emily swallowed hard, her eyes blurring with tears. Tommy, only 8, looked up at her with those wide, trusting blue eyes. "Mommy, am I going to be okay?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the beeping monitors. In that moment, the weight of the world pressed down, bills stacking like storm clouds, her double shifts at the diner barely keeping them afloat. But as she leaned in to kiss his forehead, a quiet resolve flickered in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, help would come from somewhere unexpected. Welcome to Kin Hidden, where we share tales that heal and inspire. Emily Harper had always been the kind of woman who wore her strength like a well-worn apron. Practical, unassuming, and essential for getting through the day. At 32, she was a single mother raising Tommy in a modest apartment on the edge of the city, where the scent of fresh laundry from the downstairs dryer mixed with the faint aroma of yesterday's takeout. Life hadn't always been this way. Once, in her early 20s, she'd dreamed of becoming a teacher, her notebooks filled with lesson plans and sketches of classrooms buzzing with eager kids. But then came the unexpected pregnancy, the father who vanished like mist in the morning sun, and the relentless grind of survival. Mornings started before dawn in the bustling diner, where the sizzle of bacon on the grill and the clink of coffee cups formed the soundtrack of her life. Emily moved with quiet efficiency, her chestnut hair tied back in a ponytail, her smile a shield against the exhaustion etched in her features. "Another refill, hon?" She'd ask her regulars, her voice warm like the steam rising from the pots. But behind that smile lay a sea of worries. Tommy's rare autoimmune disorder meant frequent hospital visits, medications that drained her savings, and nights where she lay awake, staring at the ceiling cracks that seemed to mirror the fractures in her heart. Yet, amidst the struggles, there were glimmers of unexplained grace. Every few months, an anonymous envelope would arrive in her mailbox. No return address, just a crisp stack of cash or a check made out to the hospital. The first time, she'd thought it was a mistake, her fingers tracing the paper as if it might dissolve. Who could this be? She'd whisper to herself, tucking it away with a mix of gratitude and bewilderment. It covered just enough. Tommy's latest treatment, a utility bill on the verge of cutoff. Her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Clara, would nod knowingly over tea in her cozy kitchen, the air scented with chamomile. "Sometimes, dear, kindness finds us when we least expect it," she'd say, her wrinkled hands patting Emily's. Clara, with her wise eyes and stories of her own lost loves, became Emily's quiet anchor, reminding her that even in the loneliest hours, the world held pockets of compassion. Tommy, bless his resilient spirit, was Emily's light. Despite his fatigue, he'd draw pictures of superheroes saving the day, his crayons scratching against paper in their cramped living room. "This one's you, Mom," he'd say, holding up a figure with a cape made of diner napkins. Those moments fueled her, but the hardships wore on. Lonely dinners of canned soup by the flickering light of a single bulb, dreams deferred like unread books on the shelf. Emily's life was a testament to quiet endurance. Still, she held on to hope, volunteering at the local community center when she could, helping others with a meal or a listening ear. Little did she know, one such act of kindness was about to weave her path with another's, crossing barriers she never imagined. Across the city, in a towering glass office that overlooked the bustling streets like a silent sentinel, Alexander Thorne lived a life of polished isolation. At 40, he was the CEO of Thorne Enterprises, a tech firm that built empires from lines of code. His days were filled with board meetings and mergers, the sharp click of his Italian leather shoes echoing through marble halls. But wealth couldn't fill the void left by his wife's passing 5 years ago. A car accident that stole her laughter and left him adrift in a mansion that felt more like a museum than a home. His daughter, Lily, now 10, was his only tether, her bright curls and inquisitive nature a reminder of the love he'd lost. Alexander's grief was a heavy cloak he wore alone, hidden behind a facade of stoic efficiency. Evenings found him in his study, the warm glow of a desk lamp illuminating stacks of reports, while the scent of aged leather from his bookshelves hung in the air. He ate solitary meals prepared by his chef, perfectly plated steaks that tasted like ash. To cope, he channeled his pain into anonymous philanthropy, donating to causes that touched his heart. Children's hospitals, single-parent support funds. One day, scrolling through charity reports, he'd come across Emily's story, a brief profile of a mother fighting for her son's health. Something in her photo, perhaps the quiet determination in her eyes, stirred a distant memory he couldn't place. He began sending those envelopes, never expecting anything in return, just a quiet way to honor his late wife's compassionate spirit. Their worlds collided on a crisp autumn afternoon in the city park, where golden leaves drifted like confetti under a sky painted in soft blues. Emily had taken Tommy there for fresh air after a doctor's appointment, the boy's laughter echoing as he chased pigeons near the fountain. That's when she noticed a girl sitting alone on a bench, her knees drawn up, tears streaking her cheeks. Lily had wandered off from her nanny during a rare outing, overwhelmed by a school bully's taunts. Emily approached gently, her maternal instinct kicking in. "Hey there, sweetie. You okay? Looks like you could use a friend." Lily looked up, her green eyes wide. I got lost, and kids at school are mean." Emily sat beside her, pulling a tissue from her purse. "I know how that feels. My Tommy gets picked on sometimes, too. Want to talk about it?" As they chatted, Tommy joined them, sharing his superhero drawings. Lily's face lit up, the two children bonding over stories of imaginary adventures. Unbeknownst to Emily, Alexander was searching frantically nearby, his phone buzzing with alerts from the nanny. When he finally spotted Lily, laughing with this kind stranger and her son, a wave of relief washed over him. "Lily! Thank God!" he said, rushing over. Emily stood, brushing leaves from her coat. "She's fine, just a little upset. Kids can be tough." Alexander met her gaze, struck by her warmth, the way her smile crinkled her eyes, chasing away the chill in the air. "Thank you. Truly. I'm Alexander." Their handshake lingered a moment too long, a spark of connection in the fading light. Over the next weeks, coincidences piled up. Alexander, drawn by curiosity, visited the diner where Emily worked, ordering coffee and pie. "Rough day?" she'd ask, pouring his cup with that same gentle smile. He'd nod, sharing snippets of his life without revealing his status. Tales of loss, the emptiness of success. Emily opened up too, about Tommy's struggles, the anonymous gifts that kept them going. Neither knew the truth, that Alexander was the sender, or that they'd crossed paths years ago in college, where he'd tutored her briefly before life pulled them apart. Their bond grew in quiet moments, a shared bench in the park, where the rustle of leaves accompanied confessions of dreams lost and found. Emily rescued Alexander from a sudden downpour one day, sharing her umbrella as rain pattered around them. "Life's full of storms," she said softly, "but sometimes they lead you to shelter." He felt seen, his hidden depths stirring under her compassionate gaze. The emotional storm crested on a rainy evening that mirrored the chaos in their hearts. Tommy's condition had taken a turn. A flare-up sent him back to the hospital, the sterile scent of antiseptic mingling with Emily's fear. She sat by his bed, head in hands, when her phone buzzed, an unknown number. It was Alexander, who'd heard through Lily. The children had exchanged drawings with contact info scribbled on the back. I want to help," he said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. He arrived at the hospital, rain dripping from his coat, and found Emily in the waiting room, her face pale under the fluorescent lights. As they talked, the pieces fell into place. Alexander confessed his anonymous donations, explaining how her story had touched him. "It wasn't pity," he said, his eyes meeting hers. "It was recognition of strength I wish I had." Emily's breath caught. "You, all this time?" But the revelation deepened. Rifling through old photos on his phone to show Lily, he pulled up a college snapshot. There, in the background of a group study session, was a younger Emily, laughing with friends. "We knew each other," he whispered, thunder rumbling outside like the pounding of her heart. "I tutored you once. You were kind to me when I was struggling too, brought me coffee during finals. I never forgot." Tears streamed down Emily's face as the weight of fate settled. In that vulnerable moment, Alexander made his sacrifice. "Let me cover everything for Tommy. Not as charity, but as family. I've been alone too long, Emily. You've shown me what love looks like again." She hesitated, pride warring with hope, then confessed her own truth. "I've fallen for you, Alexander. Not for what you have, but for who you are. The man who hides his heart but gives it freely." Their embrace in the dimly lit room was tender, a confession wrapped in the warmth of shared pain. The rain outside a symphony to their redemption. In the weeks that followed, healing bloomed like spring after a long winter. Misunderstandings dissolved as Alexander integrated into Emily's world, not with grand gestures, but quiet presence. He helped with Tommy's treatments, his mansion transforming from a lonely echo chamber to a home filled with laughter. Lily and Tommy became inseparable, their playdates in the park evolving into sibling-like bonds, the scent of fresh-baked cookies from Emily's kitchen wafting through the halls. One starry evening, under a canopy of twinkling lights on Alexander's balcony, he knelt before Emily. "You've crossed class lines, broken through my walls, and given me a second chance at love," he said, slipping a simple ring onto her finger, a symbol not of wealth, but of resilience and compassion. "Will you marry me?" Her yes was a whisper carried on the breeze, sealed with a kiss that tasted of hope. They built a blended family, Emily pursuing her teaching dreams with Alexander's support, Tommy's health stabilizing as if fate itself had intervened. Mrs. Clara attended the wedding, her eyes misty as she watched them exchange vows in a sun-dappled garden. "Kindness comes full circle," she murmured. Their lives transformed. No more lonely meals, but shared dinners around a table alive with stories and warmth. Emily found purpose beyond survival. Alexander redemption from his grief, and the children a family rooted in love. This is how kindness and love can change lives, bridging worlds we thought divided forever. If this story touched your soul, please like and subscribe.